I was kidnapped from my dying mom, so I exposed my abductor. And it turns out she was related to me. When I was 16, I was kidnapped by my aunt. My mom was in a coma after getting into a near-fatal car accident. She picked up a cake at the store when I told her I got straight A's, and she wanted to come home and celebrate it with me when someone was drinking and swerved into her lane, which made my mom lose control and drive into a ditch. My aunt got emergency guardianship of me immediately. The weirder part was my aunt Gertrude and my mom weren't on speaking terms. They hadn't been for years. She would look at me and say, "Don't worry, in time you'll see it's better this way." Or, "You'll have a life that Sarah never could have given you." Within a week, she moved me 800 miles away to their mansion and enrolled me at some elite prep school. She bought me a whole new wardrobe and kept telling everyone how she rescued her poor niece from poverty. I went along with it at first because I was 16 and terrified. I let her brag to her friends about how she saved me, about how without her I'd be homeless. I even let her drag my mother's name through the dirt in front of others because I was too exhausted to fight. But then she started to treat my grief like it was some kind of character flaw. Whenever I tried to talk about missing my mom, she would say, "You're being dramatic," or "Dwelling on the past won't help anyone." That was when I knew something had to change. So I did something for myself and started volunteering at the children's hospital through school. Working with kids whose parents were sick reminded me of who I actually was and helped me bond. These kids needed someone, and I finally felt useful instead of like some trophy Gertrude showed off. That's when everything exploded. Gertrude found out about my volunteering and went absolutely insane. She screamed at me about how it was morbid and unhealthy, and how I needed to let go of my stupid clinging to my mom, but I refused to quit, so she threatened to pull me out of school entirely, just so I couldn't volunteer. She kept yelling about everything I owed them for their generosity, and how everything I have is because of them. I realized she didn't see me as a person. I was a possession she could control and make her own. That's when I started digging through their house. I found a folder hidden in my uncle's office with legal documents that made me sick. My mom had a substantial life insurance policy that Gertrude was controlling as my guardian. But worse than that were the hospital bills. Gertrude had been refusing expensive treatments for my mom's recovery, claiming they were unnecessary expenses, treatments that could have helped her wake up. She was literally letting my mother suffer in a coma to save money while buying me designer clothes and bragging about what a hero she was. I used money I'd saved from volunteering to secretly contact a lawyer. I learned I could petition for emancipation and that Gertrude was legally required to continue my mom's treatment. I started documenting everything. Then came Gertrude's big charity gala. The local women's club was honoring her for taking in her orphaned niece, and she was practically glowing with pride. 100 were there celebrating what an amazing person she was. During the speech portion, I walked up to the microphone. Gertrude looked confused but proud, probably thinking I was going to give some touching testimonial about her kindness, and I was. "I'd like to thank my Aunt Gertrude for everything she's done for me," I started. "Thank you for moving me 800 miles away from my mother who's still fighting for her life in a coma. Thank you for refusing the medical treatments that could help her recover. Thank you for stealing my inheritance while telling everyone how generous you are." Gertrude's smile started faltering. "Thank you for forbidding me from calling the hospital because my grief over my dying mother was too dramatic for you," I continued, my voice getting stronger. "Thank you for treating me like a trophy. Thank you for calling my mother irresponsible while she worked 2 jobs to support us." I pulled out the legal documents and held them up. "These hospital bills show exactly which treatments you refused and how much money you've stolen from my mother's insurance policy while she fights for her life." The silence in that room was deafening. Gertrude's face went from horror to panic to devastation to rage and everything else. 100 of her biggest social connections were staring at her in complete disgust. Some people had their hands over their mouths in shock. Gertrude tried to stammer out some explanation, but people were already walking out. The best part was watching her try to explain herself as criminal investigators started looking into fraud charges. Her perfect reputation was destroyed in a single night. But the story doesn't end here, because last week I was visiting my mom when a nurse mentioned something that made my blood run cold. She said, "It's so weird that your aunt was here the night of the accident. She arrived about 20 minutes before the ambulance even got the call." Full story linked below.